and welcome to the next installment of E by Gore, the horror movie review podcast.
Yes, we have another treat for you in store, or perhaps it's even a trick. Time, of course, will tell. I am Tris.
And I'm Damien, and as always, we are coming to you across multiple platforms. You may be watching us in all our scary goodness on Facebook or YouTube.
Or you may be saving your eyes from the horrors of our handsome features and perhaps listening on, to the audio on Spotify, Anchor, Instagram, or, whatever sort of other platforms we tend to be whoring ourselves out on at the moment.
Whatever way you are coming at us, thank you for being here and welcome. Please make sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button, that little bell in the corner. Give that a little tickle. Make sure that you are getting those notifications so you can hear us spoiling all of your favourite movies and generally just ripping the piss out of each other, like how fucking stupid Tris looks in his backwards baseball cap today.
There's certainly a hell of a lot of piss taking, that is for sure. And hopefully, Damien, you have actually calmed down after the last episode where we pretty much shredded your love of Halloween 3. Literally like I'd stolen your comfort blanket and tap danced all over it with some mucky boots on.
Well, I'm a big boy mainly because your opinion is utter gash. You do not have the credentials to shit all over Season of the Witch. It's a classic. Decent banter.
Well, yeah, we're all about the bands, obviously.
True that. And make sure you guys get on it as well. Get us on the socials, Facebook, comment section, Twitter, Instagram. Let us know what you think about our opinions. Let us know if you think Tris is full of shit. If you think I'm full of shit, I don't need to know. Leave me to my bliss.
Yes.
Oh, fuck you, man. Look, I'm a registered horror fan for the past 20 odd years.
You've got a card and everything. You've got a card and everything, like registered horror.
So I'm gonna have to have some printed. But you're a noob. You're a noob by comparison. You do not have the credentials to shit all over Season of the Witch. Let him know what a grade A thunder cunt he is.
Anyway, let's ignore the teenager in the room. Enough about your crying, mate, and enough about the past. So on to the present, and what horror-laden delight are we going to be arguing about today?
Well, I'm glad you asked there, Tris, my boy, because we are doing Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, and as a direct result, the return of Dr. Samuel Loomis, played by Donald Pleasence in all his crazy hammy glory.
Excellent. Now, I'm actually looking forward to discussing how the fuck this fourth installment is actually possible after their, I guess, rather kind of final curtain call on the last outing. That said, before I actually destroy any logic in that, tell me, what's your history on this film?
Okay, so my history with this film is not quite as deep as my history with the other films. So the first three were big parts of my childhood, along with maybe Halloween 7 as well, H2O. So I saw this one pretty late on, probably about, I don't know, I must have been about 20 or something like that. I finally decided to track all the Halloween movies down and watched it. And I remember watching it, and in my honest opinion, my opinion then is the exact same opinion I have about it now, which we'll get into a bit more as the film goes along. But yeah, I watched this. I didn't watch this as a kid. I watched this as a big boy, as a fully grown-up boy. Underwhelmed, definitely. But we'll get into that more as we go. So not much history with this. What about you?
Again, with this franchise, not really much history. So you say you were a big boy. I just want to come back to this very, very quickly. So you say you were a big boy, but you're still like a teenager.
I still act like a teenager, but my driver's license says very differently. I'm still a 31-year-old, even if mentally I might be 15.
That's true. So back to my history. Yeah, as with the other ones in this franchise, not really much history there at all, if I'm being honest. I haven't seen any before sort of doing this podcast, apart from the first one. And yeah, I don't really know too much about this one, apart from the fact that it is literally the return of Michael Myers. They have gone back to, what made the first two so popular. They've tried to go back to creating this whole ethos around this villain, because the third one, as we discussed in the last episode or last session, it didn't really go down too well. So they've kind of brought it back, and they've tried to sort of recreate that magic, if you like, that got everybody stirred. But yeah,
Yeah,
no history really.
yeah, I think the main issue with this one, well, not the main issue, but the backstory, in the very limited way of me not doing a whole lot of research and just relying on remembering what I've seen on the extras on the DVD. So Halloween 3 kind of, yeah, it flopped, as we said, and as a result, Mustafa Akkad, who obviously owned the rights to it, wanted to bring back Michael Myers. He wanted to return to what made him so much money back in the day. Now, originally, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill wanted to continue the anthology vibe from the third one, and they wanted to do like a ghost story. I think I remember seeing somewhere they wanted to have like Michael Myers as kind of and the essence of evil in terms of like an entity. And he wanted Joe Dante to direct it. Now, I would have fucking loved that. Joe Dante of The Howling and Gremlins and The Burbs and Inner Space and
They
all
should have
these
gone
cool
down that
films.
route.
I'd have, yeah, they really should. If nothing else, it would have been very, very interesting. But the only Mustafa Akkad, he didn't want to do that. He wanted Michael back, flesh and blood. He wanted to go back to Halloween by numbers, and kind of grab the injury. And I can kind of see both sides. I mean, like I say, Halloween 3 did, but as much as I love it, it bombed. There's nothing saying that another feature going down a different route would have done anything other than bomb. So I can see why he wanted to go back to basics, but it doesn't stop me from being slightly disappointed that we didn't get that movie. Um,
You're right. It is really frustrating because, as we saw in sort of the last episode, we both actually quite like 3.
yeah,
We
absolutely. Yeah.
both rated it as the best one of the 3 that we've seen so far out of this whole franchise. And it is a shame that they felt commercially they had to go back to the whole Michael thing, and they had to go back down that route. I mean, you look at the third movie, and there were some really, really kind of definitive aspects in there that they actually showed in that movie, in the third one, as the whole Michael Myers thing was like, it was kind of like a movie set, wasn't it? It was on TV
Yeah, yeah,
during the
yeah.
third movie, and it was like a whole separate entity, and they kind of alluded to that within the third movie. The second one, it was pretty final about how they were gonna, how they ended it. You can't really get more final than blowing the shit up into a million pieces, and then seeing the whole Michael Myers melting in a whole fiery, melty death.
I don't
So
know
yeah,
because at the end of the first one, Loomis shot him 6 times and he still
6
survived.
times
But
he did.
speaking of that,
But
the only person to come back for this movie was Donald Pleasance from the original 2 movies. Jamie Lee Curtis turned it down. She was fucking flying high with Trading Places at the time and A Fish Called Wanda, so she was doing big movies. She kind of wanted to put Halloween behind her, at least until she needed a few quid a few years later in Halloween H2O. Even Michael is played by another different actor, the third different actor in 3 movies he's been in. He's played by George P.
it's
Wilbur.
not really a hard part to play, though, really, is it? In
Well,
terms of the character.
you say that, but I disagree. I think the way that you move, the way that Michael moves is integral to the atmosphere that he brings. It's
What
much
do you mean,
like
like really, really slow? Like when he's
just
chasing somebody, he's got so much patience. He just continues. He's slow.
like I think the way that Michael moves is absolutely key to the way that fear is built, or at least mystery around the character is built. When you look at how Nick Castle did it in the first one, Michael almost glides, is almost earthreal in the way that he moves. It helps build it, but when you go, when you look at how George P. Wilbur moves, he's sort of lumbering. He looks clumsy. The mask is absolutely ridiculous. Have you got a photo of the mask?
I have. It's awful. It literally looks like Data from Star Trek.
It does actually, yeah. I've
It's
never got
literally
that
like
before, but
whole other sci-fi thing. It's shit.
absolutely. Now you said that, I'm not going to be able to unsee that when I watch Halloween 4 ever again. Um, but yeah, I find George P. Wilbur to be the worst of all the minds, and I don't mean no offense to him. He's a stuntman by trade. He's not an actor. Um, and I don't think it works out too well for him. I think if you look at Friday the 13th, with how many different actors play Jason, some of them nail it. Some of them don't look so good doing it, but it's the way that they move. If you overdo it, it looks fake and it looks exaggerated. If you get it, if you get the balance right, like Kane Hodder, who comes in at Friday the 13th Part 7 and is sort of the quintessential Jason actor. He portrays him in a way that you instantly recognize him to be Jason. So I find George P. Wilbur to be the worst out of all of them. But
I
let's
guess you never sort of think of it, in terms of, you think of a character, don't you, in a movie as, the whole acting, the facial expressions and stuff like that. But you never actually think about, when that's all taken away, the importance which is actually put on, like you said, the things like movement and stuff like that, that there's so limited things you can actually utilize to actually make it believable, that when you
mm,
take the things away, like facial expressions, which we rely on so heavily, pretty much 99% of characters in any movie that you watch, when you take that away, I guess I never really thought of it that way, in terms of, how the movement is so key to Michael Myers. And yeah, I guess I'm kind of looking at it in new light now, I guess.
Kane Hodder talks about it on a documentary I saw. He famously plays Jason for, I think, Friday the 13th Part 7, 8, 9. For 9 being Jason Goes to Hell, and I think he's Jason X as well. And he says, as an actor, you have your voice and your facial expressions as a way to enhance your performance. When you have that taken away, all that you really have left is your body language to be able to convey things like menace or fear or threat. So there's a
Yeah,
lot
it's
more
true.
that goes into those styles of acting than you might think. Um, and to put a line under that, I think George P. Wilbur sucks.
To be fair,
But
I'm going to call it now. This whole film sucks.
this whole fucking
Whole
film,
film sucks.
this fucking film, dude.
I'll
Um,
tell you what. I'll tell you what doesn't suck. Loomis has got a new gun. Do you want to see it?
yeah,
We've gone from the whole sort of, the whole, 6 reel 6 times. Can he claim it with this bad boy? Look at that. He's gone for a modern Desert Eagle style gun. Look at that, shiny and,
he gives this
polished.
is
And
Loomis on steroids now. He gives zero fucks.
this is literally 20th century Loomis. This is futuristic shit. This.
He's packing heat,
Look at that.
real heat there. So let's have a look at the plot. Like I said, we don't go too much blow by blow on this show. We do spoilers. So if you have not seen Halloween 4 before and you don't want it spoiled, GTFO, go watch it. Streaming on Netflix right now. It's not great, but if you don't want it spoiled, go
I'm
watch it.
still laughing at the fact that you just said doo doo. Sorry, I'm a child. My inner child cannot ignore that. You
And
just said doo doo.
I thought I was the teenage monster. You know. So yeah, let's go into
Doo
the
doo.
plots. So plot wise,
There isn't much plot,
there
if I'm
isn't
being
much
honest.
plot. You're right. There is not much plot. So Michael is explained. So like, there's like a creepy intro with lots of shots of desert for some reason, um, and then we cut to a hospital, and it turns out that Michael survived the explosion, the massive explosion, and 2 gunshots to the head. Well, to each eye. He
And the
survived that
melting fire.
and the melting fire. But he survived that with nothing more than a little bit of scar tissue on one of his hands, which is
Yeah, this is where literally within the first 2 minutes of the movie, I said it every episode we've done this podcast. I like my horror realistic. I like believability. I like to have something to believe in. Within the first 2 minutes, Halloween 4 decimated it when they brought them back. I was looking forward to seeing how they were going to do this, how they were going to bring back Michael Myers, how they were going to bring back this shape, this fearsome character. And yeah, there was literally no mention of what the fuck happened, just that he is still being.
You see, I don't care so much about that. I know you kind of get on your high horse about shit like this, but I don't really care. I mean, if you look at all of the big major slasher franchises, you look at Friday the 13th, the amount of times Jason gets resurrected is ridiculous. There is one of the, I think it's Nightmare on Elm Street 4. Freddy gets resurrected because a dog named Jason pisses fire onto his grave. And then that
But at least there's a
resurrects him.
reason. At least there's a reason. There's no reason for this one at all. Literally, it's literally like they go, I know what. We need to kind of bring back the success of the first two movies. So let's completely forget the final scenes of Halloween 2. It never happened. You were hypnotized. It was unreal.
Yeah, it's a big retcon. We just need Loomis to jump out. I burned him 6 times.
And speaking of Loomis, he's just as bad.
No, whoa. Steady on. We're taking Donald Pleasance's name in vain.
But when I say he's just as bad, I mean the resurrection is just as bad.
Yes, good point. Yeah,
he was in the room when it went fucking boom. He was probably actually going to be more dead than Michael Myers was. At least Michael Myers got out and then melted.
I mean, he's come off it worse for wear. He has come off it worse for wear.
His makeup, he's got the tiniest little scar. The makeup on the face. That
was hilarious.
What I actually think is he was actually doing Bond at the time, and he got the scar on the face, and he just could not be asked to change. So waltzed into the set of Halloween 4 and went, fuck it, let's crack on.
The makeup is ridiculous. If you guys notice, if you've watched it for the first quarter or nearly half of this movie, it looks like a fried egg on his face. Like it's got it's exactly fried egg like in shape, and it's got the dimple in the middle like the yolk. It's hilarious. And then halfway through the movie, it's almost like they realized, because the makeup completely changes. Yeah, that's how it changes later on in the movie. But early
it looks a little bit more realistic. Somebody literally looked at that in like the editing and went, "Oh shit, we've literally stuck an egg on his face. This is not good enough. We need to change it. It's not believable like any of the other fucking shit that they do." We need to completely change it. Hang on, nip down to Tesco and get some of that fake skin that they use for Halloween. We'll dress it all up and make it a little bit more believable, because it was never believable in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. It's not, him having certain scar tissue doesn't really make or break you for a bit. Like I said, I'm a little bit less selective. I don't mind that it's a bad excuse to resurrect Myers or Loomis. I know they have to do it because they're making a new Halloween movie with Myers as the centerpiece, so I know it has to be done. I don't need them.
I just want a little bit of backstory as to how they managed to evade the explosion and the fire, and what actually happened to make, they could have done something around the fact that, Michael Myers, he survived, the first movie, he survived the second movie. What was it that actually, is he supernatural? Is he, is he some weird entity? What is it that's made him sort of survive this one and come back with the tiniest burn on his face after melting? Give me some kind of backstory to believe in this character, and just give me something.
I don't need to say. Yeah, but he takes 6 shots in the first movie and still gets up. So I don't
but he also took a knitting needle and like literally fell to the ground. He's just not the continuity.
Tris, you need to calm your tits, mate, because you just gave high scores to a movie where witches steal Stonehenge and turn kids' heads into snakes. So don't come at me with that realistic.
They stole a boulder from Stonehenge. That's
it's not realistic, though, is it?
Neither is Stonehenge.
Dude, come on. Let's look at the plot. Let's see how angry we can make you through this. So for some reason they decide to move Michael on Halloween night, which is unusual given the guy's track record on Halloween.
After he randomly dies, fire didn't kill him, 6 times didn't kill him, but he just randomly, dies, and they believe that is cool.
Yeah, so for some reason, he's in this coma, and the paramedics are transporting him, and one of the paramedics lets slip that he has a niece in Haddonfield because Laurie Strode died in a car crash, which is a wonderful way of getting rid of a beloved. I know she turned down the chance to come back, but killing a beloved character off screen in a car crash is something that doesn't really do it for me. And that is a theme through this movie. Is a lot of cool stuff happens, but you don't see shit. Like you don't see any
No
of
context
the cool.
whatsoever.
It's not just the context; you just don't see it. Like later on, we'll come to this later on, in fact. But yeah, so he finds out he's got a niece, and then you see his hand clench in anger, and then we get the first kill, which is good, and I will give props to it. He jams the paramedic's head into the ambulance, and then sticks his thumb right through the central lobe, the full frontal lobe of the paramedic, and it's a pretty brutal kill. And at this stage, to be fair, at this stage, I'm still on board with the movie. I'm not as selective about the bringing him back as you are. We've got a good kill. I'm on board right now. I think I'm feeling this
Yeah,
movie.
first kill is it's pretty decent for a kill. I'm liking an ambulance upside down. It's all good.
But unfortunately, from here at what 5 minutes into the movie, it starts going downhill. So we flash and we're introduced to our
Dramatically.
yeah, we're introduced to our new protagonists in Jamie Strode, who is Laurie Strode's daughter, played, of course, by Danielle Harris, who is a bona fide queen of horror in loads of cool movies. She's in Hatchet, which I love. She's actually in the Rob Zombie Halloween movies. She's made an appearance in Creepshow recently. She's just great. And this is her first ever movie. She's just cute as a button and good protagonist. And we also meet Rachel, who is kind of Jamie's foster sister because she's living with the is it the Carruthers family, or something like that. Carruthers, yeah. Ellie, is it Ellie? Is it Ellie Carruthers or is she Rachel? Can't remember. Either way, it doesn't matter. Big sister is what we'll call her. So we meet her. She's kind of got this weird relationship. She's really caring towards Jamie, but she doesn't really want to babysit. She's got her own life. Jamie has a nightmare for some reason about Michael Myers. I don't know how aware this 8-year-old or 9-year-old is of Michael Myers, or the fact that her uncle. I wouldn't even imagine she knows that he's her uncle.
You say that, sort of like 8, 9-year-old, but this movie actually takes place a decade after the events of the second movie. So that backstory stuff, I want to know what the fuck happened in that 18 months to Laurie.
Yeah, true.
Or
Yeah,
not even 18, a year. She'd literally
because
been fucked up, scared to hell, tried to be killed multiple times, but pops out a kid who appears in this fourth installment or third installment of the Michael Myers saga, and she's literally virgin on teenager. She's an 8, 9, 10-year-old.
yeah, and she's having nightmares about Michael Myers. Like I said, there's no reason why. But we've got to get those jump scares in somewhere, I suppose. There's some tension. We find out that Rachel, or I still can't remember her name. Look it up whilst we talk. But we find out that Big Sister has to babysit Jamie on Halloween night, and she's got to break a date. There's some tension going on there. Oh God, I will say though, the fucking Carruthers family outside of Rachel is fucking stupid. Like, do you know the breakfast scene where the dad like somehow just dips his tie into a cup of coffee and then looks around at his missus like this is your fault? It's like, you fucking dingbat. He's just like, you see, it's just fucking hilarious. Like, who's that? Who is that characterization for? Who's watching this and getting deep characterization from this absolute cock nugget, just accidentally dipping his tie in coffee and then blaming his missus for it? Like, I don't know where that's coming from, but yeah, if we find
You're
out that
all right
Rachel's
there,
got a
mate.
no, it fucking pisses me off, man. He's a dick. There's also some tension around Rachel having to break a date with Brady, who is the love interest, and he starts making eyes at the slutty character, I suppose, Kelly, who's like the archetype 80s female antagonist who wants to steal the boyfriends, those kind of characters that don't exist in real life, but is some sort of male fantasy or male created character. Again, you can tell this movie is written by some male douchebag because shit like that, like Rachel and Kelly have this, or is it Ellie? I can't remember. They have this dialogue later
It's
on
Ellie.
where like, Is it LA? Nice one. Where
It's LA. I've looked it up. It's
Ellie
LA.
and that's the big sister's name, is it?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so yeah, so they have this dialogue later. God knows why I'm calling her Rachel. They're having this dialogue later on, and
Watching too much Friends,
Kelly,
mate. Mixing it up.
that's it, yeah, and Kelly, the slutty character, says you better wise up to what men want, otherwise Brady won't be the first boy you lose to another woman. I'm like that. Who the fuck's going to war over this little fucking dickhead Brady? Like, I suppose it's trying to create some tension within the movie, but really, you just don't give a fuck about it because none of the characters feel real.
No, you're right there, and I think what they've sort of tried to do with this movie is that they've tried to go back to the original recipe of Halloween 1, where they try to build tension, and they try to build that suspense, that you know those ingredients really, which were really important in that first one. But this one, it just doesn't seem to be going anywhere fast at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so yeah, we leave all that teenage shit behind, and we go to Loomis, who's the best part of this movie by a million miles, and
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, he's kind of fine. He's found out that that Michael has either died or crashed. And he obviously, yeah, he obviously knows that he's alive. But the doctor, the main doctor, who is actually the Russian trainer in Rocky 4, don't know if you caught him out.
I did, yeah.
He did, yeah. So he's like, Michael's probably dead. He probably flew out of the ambulance, and Loomis is like, dude, no, he fucking didn't. He survived fire. He survived gunshots. An ambulance crash is fucking nothing to this dickhead. But he's Loomis is hamming it up big time in this movie. He's like, you're talking
Oh,
about him as if he was a human being. Like, fucking calm
yeah.
down.
This is like Loomis corny version Mark 10.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely agree with you there. And just for those of you out there that may be noticing, there's some quick editing going on in this video. Yes, we are experiencing some technical issues. Get over it. We'll do his best for you. No, but yeah, I absolutely agree. So yeah, Loomis is hamming it up big time. We then cut to Loomis tracking him down. He actually bumps into him in a petrol station, and shoots at him. But Michael manages to escape and steal a car again. No idea how he learned to drive, but then he
It wouldn't have
manages
mattered
to
anyway, would it? He could have hit him
no,
6 times. He'd have still
he could
escaped.
have. Yeah, he manages to get to Haddonfield eventually, and he snags another Shatner mask and tries to attack Jamie. Just so happens to bump into Jamie. He tries to attack her, but runs away when Rachel. It is Rachel, by the way. Since our last technical issue, it's Rachel. She's played by the actress Ellie. So yeah, so Rachel manages to scare him off. Don't know how. He's a serial killer, but anyway, um, he's got his mask back, which he looks fucking stupid. And then from there, I don't want to go too much into it because basically it's just business as usual. He throws some dude into the power grid, and that cuts power to the whole town for some reason. He attacks the police station, killing all the officers in the police station off screen. Fucking great. And then the local rednecks form like a lynch mob and try and hunt down Michael, but they end up doing more damage than Michael does to some extent, killing at least one innocent bystander, which gets completely forgotten by the next scene. Rachel discovers Brady cheating on him with Kelly. Who the fuck cares? Then the remaining police and Loomis track down Rachel and Jamie, and they get them to the sheriff's house where Brady and Kelly are as well. Awkward. Um, and then again, we lose a few more bodies. The deputy gets murdered. Kelly gets murdered. Brady gets murdered. All really tame kills. Um, Jamie and Rachel end up escaping. Rachel ends up getting like pushed off a roof and manages to fucking survive it. Like I don't know if she got Maya's powers, but just plot armor, I guess. But she
Yeah,
falls
it's
off the
just
fucking.
another one of those in continuity. Yeah, it's just the whole thing's just shite.
Yeah, absolutely stupid. But yeah, Jamie bumps into Loomis that had fucked off to find Michael, despite the fact Michael was in the original house he was in. They run into a school. Um, Loomis gets thrown through a glass window. Um, and then the hillbillies show up again, somehow being completely forgiven for murdering an innocent person, and they agree to drive Jamie and Rachel to the next town. But fucking Michael's turned into Rambo all of a sudden. He's managed to cling on to the bottom of the truck. He kills a few more rednecks. Rachel manages to toss him off the truck as she's driving into an abandoned mine, which appears for some reason. And then the hillbillies and the cops shoot the shit out of Michael a lot more than 6 times as well, to send Michael to his grisly death at the bottom of the mine shaft. And then it ends with possibly the best part of the movie. We get like,
The only decent part in this movie, to be fair.
yeah, barring the first kill, but yeah, it's like a throwback to the original. We get like the camera through the eye holes and someone stabs the mother in the bathroom, and then we see that it's Jamie who's like lost her shit completely and has become the new Michael Myers. And it ends with Loomis like leaning back and going, "No, no!" And it's the cheesiest shit I've ever seen, but it's so fucking good. And that is Halloween 4. Really, it ends well and it starts well. It's just that massive lump between the between that really fucks it all up. But
There's literally 10 minutes of this movie which are actually okay. The first five and then the last five. Everything in
yeah.
between may as well not be there. And I think that's actually what bred Jamie to actually go fucking bat crap crazy. She was so fucked off that this film was a massive letdown and that, all that shit happened. It was pretty pointless. It was pretty tame. It was really slow. It was really predictable. And she lost her shit and decided, fuck it, I'm just going to kill some people.
Yeah, must be. I mean, one thing that really pisses me off about this movie is how tame it really is. Like, so much happens off camera or is cut away. So, like, obviously, Laurie dying off camera in like just like a tell don't show
Yeah.
attitude is pretty bad. But the main one that pisses me off every time I see this film is the police station. Like Loomis and the deputy and the new sheriff or whatever, they walk into the police station. There's just bodies strewn everywhere. Like, how cool would it have been to see Michael just walk into a police station and take out an entire precinct? It would have been fucking
Yeah.
awesome to see, but it just happens off camera. Or like when he's at the petrol station and there's like the mechanic, on the floor fixing that car, and
Yeah.
Michael has that rod and it's like he's gonna stab him, but it just cuts away. Or even the fucking shotgun. Like he has a shotgun, he just is it Kelly that he stabs and pins her to a wall? Which I
Oh
know is
yeah,
like a
that's yeah, literally like thrusts it through her, but then she sticks to the wall as he pulls the shotgun out. And it's pretty cool kill actually, but then the afterthought to it is there's just no afterthought at all. And I think that's what sums up this movie for me. It's frustrating because there's so much that they could have done with this. It's billed as, Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers, but it's so tame. We literally don't see half of the kills in there. They could have done so much with it, and they just didn't. It's like afterthought central. It's
it's just
just
weak.
so
It's
disappointing.
absolutely weak as
So
piss.
disappointing. It could have been brilliant, and that's the frustrating thing. It wasn't. It was far from brilliant. It was literally the worst one of the lot so far. It's just so poor, disappointing, and yeah, I just that's the word, disappointing.
Yeah, I'd say disappointing. I think it's like by the numbers, I suppose. Like they're trying to tick all the boxes of the original
Yeah.
Halloween because there's not a lot of gore in the original. I concede that the
No, but
1978
the
movie.
suspense is good.
Yeah, the
They do
suspense is
for all
there.
the lack of gore and the lack of, the impact with that and the kills and stuff. They do the suspense and everything else really well. So there is something in that movie, that you can get invested in. With this one, it just lacks all of that. There's just nothing in there.
I think it's well written. Is the first one's very well written. I think it's simple and just done right. Whereas this
Yeah.
one, I think all that sort of subplot about Rachel and Brady and Kelly, that kind of weird love triangle, you just the characters are so two-dimensional. Like Rachel is a good girl who is obsessed with Brady and wants to get married to him, and it's like it's blatantly written by a guy. And Kelly is the slutty archetype character that wants to steal the boyfriend, and she has no other character traits apart from that. Brady is somehow shone in like a positive light, despite the fact he cheats on Rachel. But he's meant to be, I suppose,
Yeah, I'd
the
agree with that.
archetype good dude, and has no other character traits apart from like suddenly flipping and trying to save Rachel by going toe to toe with Myers. And that whole subplot is just doesn't work for me. It's so fake. Jamie is a good character. I understand, obviously, not having Laurie Strode in the movie, but bringing in that family connection in the second one, they kind of stuck with having to continue um, that canon of relations between Strodes and Myers. So I understand bringing Jamie in, and I think Danielle Harris does a really good job. She's very young in it. It's her first film. She does a good job with the material she's got. I don't think many of the actors around her are doing much good, and I think that's largely down to the writing. Um,
Yeah,
and like
I
you
think
said,
I'd agree with that.
yeah,
It's there's so much about this movie that right from the word go, there's so much that they have to try and, you know, explain from the previous installment in Halloween 2 that they just fail to do. And then, like you said, they write out, the main, you know, the heroine, if you like, from Halloween 2 in Laurie with just an afterthought. It's literally like, yep, car accident, gone, introduced you to this new family connection, but there's no genuine backstory there. It's all very loose. There's just nothing to get your teeth into. There's no believability about it. And I know I keep harping on about that. That's how I like my horror. That's how I like my stories. I like believability. But this it's not just believability that it lacks substance overall
yeah,
and
yeah. I'd
quality
agree with that.
throughout the whole movie. It's I said it before, it's frustrating because it could have been so much better than what it actually ended up being.
Yeah, absolutely. I would go along with that. Should we rate this bitch then?
Can we actually give it a rating? Yeah, why not? Let's give it a try, shall we? This is getting a very miserable, dismal 2 out of 10. I'm not even going to gratify it
Wow.
with, a whole fancy, backstory to the grade I'm giving. It's getting a 2, and it's lucky to get that. It's shit.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't go that bad on it because there are way worse movies than this, and many of them you will end up watching on this show.
I'm sure.
Um, it's by the numbers. It's very unadventurous, if that's a word. It doesn't take any leaps. I'm guessing after they were so criticized for Halloween 3, they just wanted to do something basic that using a formula that they know had succeeded in the past. I think they can't be too critiqued for trying to do that because they were almost losing interest in the franchise because of what Halloween 3 did to it. But in by doing that, they made a very tame slasher movie where it just wasn't competing with other slasher movies of the time in terms of gore, in terms of writing, in terms of memorable characters. If you look at Halloween 4 versus something like Friday the 13th 4, which is called the final chapter, which is where Friday the 13th for me really kicks into its
Yeah.
stride. You compare it with Nightmare on Elm Street 4, which is where I suppose Freddy goes Hollywood and really finds himself in that sort of zany characterization. Whereas you've got Michael Myers, who arguably started all this slasher stuff, and he's just sort of by the numbers, really tame kills, really low on the gore, really low on the writing. It's a poor movie. I'm not going to go as low as 2 because I think the problem with Halloween 4 is it's not an absolute stinker and it's not a good film. It's just so unbelievably boring that it just is. So I mean, I'd give it a 4 out of 10. It's slightly below average. It could have been so much better. So I would give it 4 shotguns rammed through a female antagonist's guts out of 10.
A
You can
worthy
tell
effort. A worthy
you,
effort.
you can tell I've had
It was a
enough of this
struggle, but a
movie.
worthy effort.
You can tell I've struggled with this movie.
It
But
is a
yeah,
struggle.
it struggled to fill up the time, to be fair. Even your
Yeah.
internet couldn't be asked to sit through this fucking program
No, it
about
literally
Halloween
took a
4.
fucking dump. It just couldn't be arsed with it. But I think for me, I think it could have actually been a lot better than what it actually ended up being. I can understand why they went down the route that they did after the third one, and I can see what they were trying to do with it. They just failed miserably for me to actually make what they were trying to create, and there was no sort of story there. So yeah, I think it's probably best we park Halloween 4 and move on. So dare I ask, what's up next? Do we need a crystal
Well,
ball?
next, mate, if you can believe this, is Halloween 5, The Revenge of
What?
Michael Myers.
Never.
Absolutely. One thing that Halloween 4 does is launch the Cult of Thorn trilogy, which is 4, 5, and 6 is a trilogy unto itself. It's a self-contained trilogy within the main canon. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be interesting, but make sure you let us know what you guys think in the comments section. Grab us on the socials, facebook.com/ebygore, Twitter, Instagram at ebygore, ebygore at gmail.com. Guys, let us know what you think. Give us your opinions. Let us know what you think on if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts. Give us a review, 5 stars only, please. And we will see you next week. I've been Damien.
We will indeed. And I've been Tris, and
See
we
ya.
will see you next time. Enjoy.
Bye.